Welcome and thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
From the front lines of violence prevention, digging into the details that matter. Get ready for a 15-minute fast-paced information download that will prepare you to ask the critical question. When disaster strikes, are we good? Now, here's Jim Bennett.
So today we're going to talk about physical security vulnerability assessments, basically looking at how we best protect our organization and the individuals associated with it, whether they are staff members, executive team managers, or the public. Maybe you have customers that interact at your facility or other visitors and guests. How do we best protect everyone as well as the physical side of it, the physical plant, the campus, etc. So we're going to dive into that. Now, today's conversation is only the tip of the iceberg. It's really starting the conversation looking at what you can do to get ready for an assessment, identify who's going to do it, how it's going to go about, and what you're looking for. In a future episode, we'll really dive down into the hard security questions of talking more about cameras and access control, etc. But I would invite you to get more information on this segment, as well as any segment, but this one has a lot of great stuff available for you in the squad room. Join the good squad and you can get all that information at your fingertips any time of day you like. All right, so let's move forward. Here's my question. It's always my question. Are we good? If today is the day, are we good? Have we done everything we can to best protect our organization and the individuals inside? Well, by conducting a vulnerability assessment, we can get on that path, and then making the changes, the fixes, the improvements that we've identified puts us strongly in a position of best protecting our organizational community. Now, there are priorities when you're looking at a vulnerability assessment. Certainly, life safety is the highest priority, protecting individuals. Then comes the physical security side of it, protecting the physical plant, the campus, the buildings, the outdoor recreational areas, whatever it might be. How do we best protect that from damage, vandalism, theft, or intrusion, people getting into our organization? And finally, it's about protecting the brand. Many times people are like, Jim, we don't sell anything. Well, I'm not worried about a brand. Every organization, every business has a brand. And that brand may be just simply known by your name as providing schooling, let's say, or known by your name as providing technology services or government, not necessarily a hard item that you're selling, but rather it is a service that you're providing. And sometimes service that no one pays for, other than I guess you could say through taxes. But protecting the brand is critical. And the way we protect that brand is through our efforts in life safety and physical security. Think of it this way. Small organizations out there that have had very tragic, violent incidents happen. We all know their names. There are those individuals that think twice before sending their child to a particular school because of something that happened in the past. Maybe a particular movie theater, because we know those names that we didn't know, or the vast majority of us didn't know before, but now it has changed it. So protecting the brand is critical, and it means getting the buy-in from the top management structure of the organization to understand if we have bad things that happen here, we will be known by that more than anything else we do. There are true obstacles out there that do occur in conducting an assessment. Many times, if we're doing it ourselves, we see what we want to see. We're so used to the norm. We're used to that door that doesn't lock that we just kind of brush over it and we don't pay attention to it. Yet that's a vulnerability for the organization. So looking through the right lens is important. And sometimes this gets confused a little bit with loyalty, right? You'll think, hey, I don't know, we don't have the funds to be able to make these corrections. I don't know if I want to really point that out. Everyone knows. You're not being loyal. You're not helping the organization by bypassing that. It has to be part of the conversation. We see other points of failure as well when we talk about assessments. We focus on the things that we think might happen, not what could happen. So it is important that we pay attention to the big global picture of what things could occur, even though they may be unlikely. Think of it, other organizations that have been in the news that have had incidents happen. Probably in many of those cases, they never even thought about those type of crimes occurring in their organization. That's a big place, or it's a big city, or it's inner city. No, it can happen anywhere at any time, and certainly any place. So make sure that we do not check the box of failure of failing to expect the unexpected. We need to be prepared for it. We need to understand it and be prepared. Now, I look at this through the lens of identifying those people that may carry out crimes. The first I call thinkers, and we'll talk about them in just a minute here. The second is a word that was developed out of the Bennett, not really a word dictionary, called impulsinators. And because it's our show, I guess I can make up words. I don't think there's any crime against that. But I came up with that word because I think it really well describes this group of individuals. These are generally people that work on impulse. Walk in, something to steal. Someone tells me no, I react to that. Oh, there's a wall that I can vandalize because I'd love to just see my initials on the wall, or my what I believe is beautiful artwork that no one else agrees with. Those sort of things. It's that impulse response. These are generally people that can be more easily deterred from committing those crimes simply by the inclusion of physical security measures, doors that are locked, access control, cameras, lighting, as well as maybe presence, depending on the type of business of security or law enforcement personnel. And the consequences of their action generally are less consequential. They're not as big. They're not big wins. They may think it's a big win. And of course, I'm using the win as a negative here. We don't want them to have any wins. Now let's talk though for a minute about the thinkers. So the thinkers are the ones we really have to focus on, because those are the individuals that are looking for every possible way to commit their crime. This is the targeted violence. When we talk about threat assessment, behavioral threat assessment, conducting assessments through a team, that's what this is looking at, because there are individuals that take the time. I mean, there's so many examples of violent incidents that were days, weeks, months, years, more than a decade in the planning. Those are the ones that are the most dangerous because they think through all their consequences. They think through obstacles that we may put in their way. So we have to be prepared, certainly, for the impulsinators, but that can be more the basic and probably what we're doing today. We need to really focus on the thinkers because they are looking for those other pathways to access the building, to access individuals, etc. They may or may not be insiders. They may have been an insider that was terminated, worked there at one time, came as a contractor, but they are great at intel mining. And intel mining is simply, what do I need to do? What do I need to know to accomplish my crime? So let's kind of go through the big picture here on the vulnerability assessment. First of all, I want you to keep this in mind. Once written, it's always written. So what goes in there is a permanent record. Not that you can't amend it, not that you can't indicate that things have been fixed, changed, or whatever, but initially what's in there is there. That is a document. Also, there can be a shock factor many times for CEOs. Boy, you found all these issues. That's expensive, right? Keeping people safe is expensive, but identifying it up front, not waiting for a lawsuit to come along and have it pointed out anyways by someone else, but identify it early on so you can plan for it and begin to do what you need to do to address that, even if it's long-term, because of costs, is extremely important. And always keep in mind, it may be challenged. There's going to be people that say, hey, I don't agree with what your findings are. I want you to think too of the things that could happen. As you're conducting an assessment, what is probable and what's possible? And both of those are extremely important. So if you think, wow, we could have a fire here, that's pretty possible. maybe even probable. We could even have a violent act from someone, but never thought about a tsunami. Well, you're in a tsunami zone. Shouldn't you be thinking about that? As you start an assessment, I want you to look at the typical. How does your organization work? You may feel like, hey, I've been here for 20 years. I know everything there is. No, you probably don't because you haven't done every job. So spend some time observing the typical. The next part of it is policies and procedures. Review those page by page, identifying if they are inclusive of all the concerns, that they're not old school, they're new school, they're what is current today and what we're actually doing and what we can actually do. Also, interview those individuals that are responsible for the policies and procedures to understand why certain things are in there and why they aren't. You want to also identify, are they legal? Are they clear? Are they concise? And certainly, as I mentioned, applicable to today. Also, we want to be sure with policies and procedures that those people that need to have access to them have access. I've had so many conversations over the years of people saying, oh, I know there's an emergency operations plan. It's locked in a cabinet. I've never seen it. That's not effective. That's not a plan. Yeah, it's something on paper that might be effective, but if no one knows anything about it until the disaster strikes and they open it up, we're too late at that point. So make sure policies, procedures, emergency operations plans, those sort of things are readily available. They're practiced, they're exercised. There's a stress test to see if they actually are effective and what is needed. Sometimes I see things overlooked like key control, loss of ID card, loss of keys. That's a famous one because many people don't want to report that they lost their keys. It's embarrassing, or their access control card. They may think they're going to get fired. They may think, wow, this is embarrassing. Well, welcome to the club. We've all done it. But what's even more embarrassing is they've lost something. They haven't reported it. Someone finds it. Someone commits a heinous crime. So we need to create a culture and be sure there's a culture that addresses that. It encourages people to immediately report. It's by far better to do that than to hold off and hope you can find it in the bottom of the washing machine or wherever it might be. Then you conduct your tours, both interior and exterior. And like I said, in future shows, we'll kind of really get into those more so. But you can also get a lot of this as well in the squad room. So conduct your tour, conduct interviews. This is important. Conduct interviews with staff at all levels in the organization. Don't forget, if you have volunteers, if you have other agency partners, maybe they're contractors, there are other organizations that come in, ask them. And I'm going to give you a couple interview questions here that are kind of my favorite. For those of you that are watching, you can kind of see my list there. Or again, be sure to go into the squad room and I'll have that available there for you as well. But ask them, hey, if I were going to do whatever, break into the building here, how do you think I would do it? And you're going to be amazed at some of those responses. Ask them and say, hey, I need you to be honest with me. What's broken? Well, there's that door that's always... Ask those questions, get those responses, and put that as part of your report to make sure that you've covered all bases. Also ask them, tell me what you would do. So this is an interesting kind of situation that occurs in a lot of organizations. Worked with a lot where they say, oh yeah, we've got a great active violence response. It's a run, hide, fight response. Okay, cool. That sounds great. Maybe I even see some flyers up around the building. And then I go and ask an employee, tell me what you would do if there was a violent intruder. Run? I don't know. And that's the response because they were never trained in it and it's never reinforced. Or maybe they were trained 5 years ago, perishable skill. They don't even remember what it is today. After you've collected all that information, you've done your tours, you've looked at policies, procedures, you've interviewed people, revisit everything because you are going to see it through a different lens. Now that you have all this intel, you're going to look at things different. I promise you. And you will put things in the report that you wouldn't have on your first pass because you didn't have all the information that you needed. If you need clarification, ask for clarification from the different departments. Prepare your report. Be prepared. You may have to present on it. And also be prepared. There may be changes as well. So your head is probably spinning by this point. That's a lot. Again, go to the squad room. Join the Good Squad. We want you part of it. More information there, great opportunities to have conversations about this. And we'll see you on the next upcoming episode. And in the future, we'll talk more about these. And don't forget the most important question, CEOs all the way down, are we good? Ask that today.